Hello, my name is MIKKEL THORUP. I'm the host of the Expat Money Show, and today I am joined by my very good friend, Swen Lorenz. Sven, say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone, and hi, MIKKEL. It's great to be here in Panama with you.
I'm very happy to have you. So today I want to discuss with you crisis investing, and specifically in Argentina. So I guess my first question is, what is crisis investing?
Well, crisis investing is a subject and an investment theme that has been extremely popular with my readers, which is why I suggested that we discuss it here on this podcast. It's all about going in when everyone else is afraid to buy, which is when you get the best prices for an investment. And if you think back throughout history, moments of war, food shortages, inflation, government bankruptcies, these were the moments when you should really go into a country or into an investment subject as an investor, because then you get outrageous discounts and outrageous deals, and then subsequently you can make many times your money. Case in point, for example, if you remember, Russia in the 1990s. No one wanted to invest in Russia in those days. Had you invested, you would have made 100 times your money. Some people made 500 times their money.
Wow.
This was crisis investing at its best, and that's what we've decided to talk about today for that reason.
Well, I think it's an interesting topic because there's a lot of negative connotation with things like this. You know, we have done a lot of content together. We've talked about Argentina in the past. My listeners have probably seen me discuss these types of things. Now, I got so much hate mail from this. I got called a vulture and all kinds of nasty, nasty names, which I was a little bit surprised, because if someone understands on what we're actually doing here, I mean, we're not screwing anyone over. We're not taking advantage. We're not doing anything illegal or at all. Maybe you can kind of clarify, on a moral level about crisis investing.
Absolutely. Crisis investing is actually doing a good thing. You're helping those where capital is needed the most right now. And it's funny that you mention hate mail. I kind of take it as a good indicator. Whenever I publish a report and I get a little bit, I don't really get hate mail, but I get, some very critical and sometimes borderline nasty emails. And I always take that as a sign that I'm onto something, because I'm not in the investing business to buy things that others then praise me for and say, oh, this is the most happening investment theme right now. And, you are with everyone else. My work is very much to filter out those investments that currently too few people are looking at, which is where you get the bargains, which is why my website is called Undervalued Shares. We want to invest when things are cheap.
And you're not doing it for virtue signaling, make you look good or some holier than thou. I mean, you're there to make money and you have a responsibility to put out the best information, and you do, for your readers, because a lot of people's lives depend on their investments. This might be their retirement account, how they're going to provide for their family, things like that. So you actually have an obligation to make sure that you're putting out the best stuff possible.
First of all, and if you wanted to really add the morality aspect to it all, countries that have fallen into a state of crisis need the help of the outside world the most, and they need investment capital the most, which is why you also get the best terms for your investment. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. You make the biggest difference you can with your money, which then pays off with the highest possible return. Of course, there are higher risks involved with that, but you have to go into these situations informed and with your eyes wide open and being knowledgeable, and ideally having solid information to base your decisions on. And then there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And it is one way to do a lot of good and make a lot of money in the process.
Well, I think that a lot of the problems with crises are that there is a lack of liquidity in the market, right? So by you actually stepping in as foreign direct investment and providing liquidity, you're actually really helping people, because if it was the local economy who are owning these types of stocks and shares in this example, but could be farmland, could be real estate, could be factories, could be many different types of things. By providing liquidity, you give people options.
Absolutely. And one of the wonderful things about crisis investing, which is one of the aspects that too few people talk about, is that at least in some instances, it can be quite predictable. And we wanted to speak about Argentina. So if you look at a 30-year index of the Argentinian stock market, it is an extraordinarily reliable, extreme up, extreme down. The Argentinians somehow have this thing they're doing their cycles in a very, pronounced way, let's put it like that. And the Argentinian stock market has this habit of every 5, 7, or 10 years losing 85% of its value and then shooting up again to where it used to be, and which means multiplying the investment in value because it's so cheap. Once you've lost 85%, you go back to where you came from. That's like 7 times your money. And it has done that multiple times over, and it will probably continue to do that, at least for the foreseeable future. That's how it looks like right now.
So how do you know where you are in the cycle, though?
So right now you can buy Argentinian assets with a discount of 85%, something like that. There are different ways to look at how you value stocks. And one stock that I like looking at in the whole Argentinian context is one that especially American followers of yours will find very easy to buy and sell. It's a company called Cresut, and it's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. It's an Argentinian company, but it was the first Argentinian company with ADRs on the New York Stock Exchange. And the way how I look at valuing this company, and this gets across what we're dealing with here, so they've got 500,000 acres of farmland. And there's one farm that is about 70,000 acres, so 70,000 out of 500,000. And the entire company is valued on the basis of what is this one farm worth. And everything else currently is assigned a value of 0.
Okay.
And, this is a rule of thumb valuation, but it goes to show that you're getting assets kind of for free right now, which is about as extreme as it gets.
Yep.
And then when you look at the future earnings potential of the operations behind the land that they own, which is a lot of farmland and cattle and soy and
tangible goods, things that people need.
And more so than ever now, because food prices have been going up, and they've been going up dramatically.
Have they ever?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of those stories that I think politicians don't like to talk about because it ties in with this whole subject of inflation and what is the true inflation rate. Food prices have been going up dramatically, which we all know if we just go into a supermarket, a Whole Foods, wherever you go shopping. And of course, the companies that produce food can probably increase their margins because of that. And a country that is strongly engaged in food production can turn around on the back of that. And Argentina is a country that exports about, I think, $75 billion worth of goods every year, of which 80% is food or food related.
Okay.
So if you think about Argentina having a hard time and food prices suddenly going through the roof, then the next logical consequence is Argentina is going to turn around as a consequence as well, because they will make so much more money from selling food to the world that the country as a whole is going to go to the next cycle, which is exactly what we've been talking about. Argentina always gets off the hook somehow because something advantageous happens. And this time it's probably going to be food prices and food shortages in other parts of the world.
So is that the main play that you're looking at in Argentina, is the food prices? Because, I mean, we could look at stocks around the world, and I could find lots of stocks that were depressed, 90% from all-time highs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good buy or a good investment by any means.
Argentina has the big advantage. It's on the radar screen of a lot of emerging market investors because it's in the Americas. It's been around forever as an emerging market. It's very investable. It has a multitude of Argentinian stocks are listed on the New York Stock Exchange as ADRs. That's why it's not just any emerging market. There are a lot of countries out there that are in the doldrums, and they will probably remain there forever, as you say. With Argentina, it's a very different story. There are specialized hedge funds in New York that look at nothing but Argentina. So when something actually does happen in Argentina, when things do turn around, money flows right back into this market. It becomes more liquid again. Prices go up. And I think next time it will happen on the back of a whole number of stories. For example, Argentina has huge energy reserves as well.
Okay.
And now that the Biden administration, not getting political, just describing facts, now that they have put a de facto ban on developing new fracking
technology
projects in the States, energy companies are looking at other parts of the Americas where they could potentially deploy their capital, deploy their highly qualified staff, their equipment. And Argentina has an area that is the world's 4th largest reserve of energy resources that you get out of there using these fracking technologies.
Okay.
And that is suddenly experiencing a rush of investment. And, everything is pointing towards it'll be very, very interesting in the next couple of years to be in Argentina.
Exciting. So what about the currency, though? Because I've been watching the Argentinian currencies, and it's not something I would necessarily want to hold in my portfolio. Now, you mentioned that you can buy some of the stocks on the New York Stock Exchange. Is that how you're doing a lot of the investment, or are you participating in the local currency as well?
I would only buy it on the New York Stock Exchange. Okay. And then one important aspect to keep in mind is that a significant part of the Argentinian economy is actually already based on US dollars. If you sell energy, you sell it in the world markets for US dollars. Same with food.
Okay.
It's a complex story with regards to these currencies. And some real estate companies down there, for example, have borrowed money against the dollars. Some have borrowed money against the local currency. You need to look at the details of this. This is nothing that we can cover in a short podcast. But bottom line is everything there is so bombed out that even these risks are currently already priced in and probably more than priced in already.
Okay.
And then buy it on the on the New York Stock Exchange and just use a dollar-based stock trading system.
Okay, makes sense. So what are some of the risks that people should be aware of if they wanted to participate in crisis investing though?
Liquidity is always number one. When a country is experiencing a deep crisis, usually liquidity disappears. In Argentina, this has gone to a point recently where investment banks stopped publishing research about a lot of the companies down there. You know, you see the real desperation and exhaustion phase is already happening down there. People always worry about expropriation and having assets taken away from you. I don't see that as a serious.
Does Argentina have a
anymore.
history of this?
No, they have a history of taxation,
Yeah.
which is what countries do when they're in crisis. But they also have a history, and especially all of Latin America and Argentina as well. When they do need capital from abroad, which is now, they also put in place very favorable tax deals and very favorable deals with foreign investors. So, you know, this is, again, not something that just can work against you. There's also an opportunity working with the government on these things. And then there's a risk of you might buy too early, and these markets can be very volatile combined with the political upheaval that happens with the crisis and with the liquidity risk. So I would always buy an initial stake in a company, first keep a bit of powder dry. So if you have to buy some more, which can happen, then
So dollar cost average your way in.
Exactly.
Don't try to time it exactly perfect.
Correct. Although I have to say with Argentina, what I've observed in the last 10 months, when bad news came out, the stock market and the individual stocks didn't really react negatively to it anymore. It seems to be priced in now.
Okay.
So I think we've probably hit rock bottom there, somewhere there.
Okay, brilliant. So I guess my last question is then, what type of returns or what type of upside potential do you see on something like this?
If you're willing to hold a couple of years, I'd say in Argentina, you should make 3 to 5 times your money in the next couple of years.
So 300 to 500%.
Yep, correct. Wow. Given that everything has lost 80 or 90% of its value and you get massive discounts to net asset value. And then there's also another thing that has happened quite often in Argentina. You do have companies down there that are used to this kind of extreme cycle. And they are run by CEOs and major shareholders and families that actually know how to utilize these cycles to their advantage.
Okay.
So it's not like they're just, bopping around like a cork on the ocean and they're, whatever happens next. They actually prepared for these situations and they keep powder dry. They have sort of unutilized lending facilities and all that. They themselves then buy more assets during times of crisis.
Buy back shares,
additional
land and
take
factories.
Over competitors. And another company that I've written about in the past is an energy company in the fracking space in Argentina. It's Pampa Energía, which is also listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And they could very well in the next cycle surpass by far their previous record. If the Argentinian energy industry enters into a whole new era, which it may well do, probably a subject for another podcast, or there's something on my website as well. And there, the returns could be even greater. So there's definitely a lot of money to be made.
Okay.
If you go in early, if you have the appetite for that risk, if you know what you're doing, and if you're also just simply willing to, give it 2 or 3 years, because a massive crisis like that doesn't just go away overnight.
Sure.
And then once you've turned the corner, you usually have a good number of years where things are going in the right direction again. And then you can really reap the benefits of a company being under full steam again.
Amazing. Very, very interesting. If you guys want to find out more about Argentina and specifically Sven's outlook and the stocks that he's working with there, then you guys can go to expatmoneyshow.com/undervalue. It's going to redirect you directly to Sven's website where he's got a special report all ready for you. You just put in your name and email address. It's yours for free. If you guys want to sign up for Sven's paid newsletter, there is a great deal on there. I am a lifetime member myself. I absolutely love your special reports. I find that, they're not very dry. There's quite a bit of humor. There's a bit of storytelling. There's a lot of things in there. So they're always fun to read and you're always learning something. They're very educational and are going to open up opportunities for you around the world that really you are not going to find anywhere else.
Great.
So thank you very much, Sven, for coming on the show. And I will talk to you soon, okay?
Great. Thank you.